You're listening to the Geriatric Mamas Podcast with Jessica Raziri
and Sonia Tapley.
It is crazy.
So this very 13 episode is going to be all about getting back to work after baby and balancing work life with motherhood as a geriatric mama.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've actually had like several listeners reach out to us to share their thoughts on mom guilt and returning to work. And balancing everything. And so we just kind of felt like, you know what, I think this is a good one to jump into. And this isn't going to be the first time we're going to be talking about this, because I think it's an ongoing topic that
it's an ongoing topic.
Geriatric mama or not, any new mom is struggles with this balance. It's just like to try to think about like what has helped us. And I was just like telling Sonia, talking to her offline, it's just like, honestly, nothing.
Right. Nothing has helped with the mom guilt.
What has helped? Nothing has helped. Nothing has helped with the mom guilt, to be very real and honest. It's just something that I've been learning to accept and live with, and know that it's just always going to be there. I'm just always going to feel like I'm not enough and I'm fucking everything up, and everyone's mad at me for something. It's just what it is.
Right. And like when I was getting back to work, so my company that I worked for gave 6 months of maternity leave. And
it's amazing.
So isn't it amazing? So, I was only ever used to like work, obviously before becoming a first-time mom. And I thought it was going to be easy because I had those 6 months, and I was like, I'm just going to be dropping her off at childcare and picking her up, and everything is going to be great. But then after she was born, I was like, thank God I have these 6 months, because I need to just adjust myself from being only mom to being mom and employee. And I think it was, so Annabelle was born May 30th. And then I was going back to work. I think it was like the first week of December I was going back to work. Or no, it was mid-December I was going back to work. And I think I started feeling the mom guilt around like the 1st of September. So like this week of 2 years ago, I started feeling the mom guilt about going back to work, because I wasn't sure how everyone else around me or childcare providers, like our family, was going to fully understand her cries and all of her, her little needs that are specific to her. Because I had spent every single waking moment with her from the time that, she was born until, going back from maternity leave. So I definitely had that huge weight on me and that huge sense of mom guilt. And then because December is like going into holidays, and I ended up getting COVID the week I was supposed to go back. Yikes. I ended up getting COVID.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then I went back. It was holiday. So everyone around me was going to be on vacation, basically right after Christmas. It's like everyone takes their last week of vacation of, that year right after Christmas. So then I was basically on vacation like everyone else, because I had saved that vacation time as well. And then I had a couple weeks in January going back where my computer just wouldn't work because I had been signed out of everything and I had to get it fixed. And then I got COVID again.
Oh my God.
So it was insane. So my mom guilt kind of went away and became work guilt. Like, thank God my boss and my boss and my company were just so amazing about the whole situation. And I was still trying to get my computer fixed even while I had COVID. So that made me feel a little bit better about the situation. But I ended up, my mom guilt definitely changed over from mom guilt to work guilt.
It was like the world knew you needed to like ease into it. It was like, it was like, you're not quite ready. We're going to do you a solid. We're going to give you some COVID. And yeah, we're going to fuck some shit up a little bit.
COVID's
What is
gonna
it, like when
handle
Mercury's in retrograde or something? Everything
all
like
of the
fucks up.
all the planets are in retrograde.
Yeah. everything was raging.
Everything lined
just
up
to give you a little more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little different. So, because you were working from home primarily, right? Like you would go into the office every so often, but weren't you basically working remotely?
So it was, so I had my main territory back. So I was working from home, usually 2.5 days a week, depending on how many conference calls we had. And then I would be in store 2 to 2.5 days a week. So it made it an easier transition than having to go in physically to work every single day of the week. And then I would just try to get Annabelle to childcare by 8:45 and be home by 9 or 9:30 at the latest to be on my computer and ready to answer calls and really be present. So, I mean, that definitely helped.
Yeah, I know for me, like I had a pretty good maternity leave as well. It wasn't 6 months, but it was a good long one. It was from October to February. So it was a good break for sure. And I didn't really feel like I don't think I really felt like a lot of the same anxieties that a lot of new moms do when they're having to return to work, because I was working fully remotely. And so it was like, well, nothing's really going to change. The only thing that I was struggling with is that, we had our morning routine, and it's like I would get up with him, give him a bottle, and then it would be like a little bit after that, then I would give him his like breakfast, like his, solids breakfast. And then we would play together, and then he would go down for a nap. And it was just this like leisurely morning kind of routine that we had. And so like for me, I'm like, well, what is that going to look like? Is work going to be cutting in on that? Like, and at the time, like, Adam was going into the office and stuff, and we had both agreed that we weren't really, we were going to try not to do the daycare thing if we could, especially not for like the first, in the early stages. And so we were really just, relying on family and stuff. But at the time it was like, he wasn't going to his gams like he is now. It was mostly, he was just staying back here. And so it was like, I quickly realized that like, okay, like, because I guess in my head, I was like, well, I'm working remotely. So while he's napping and like, I can like have my laptop on the couch while I'm holding him and it's not a big deal. Like, no, it doesn't really work that way. So I was feeling like my work was kind of suffering, and it was like that balancing act of like, I don't want to stick him in front of the friggin' TV all day. Like that's, what is he getting out of that, And so it's like the balancing act of like, make sure I'm getting my shit done work wise, but then also still being a good mom. And like you said, like feeling like you're not a good employee and like, so it's like, it was just a different kind of guilt of like, or anxiety of like the schedule changing and what is that going to look like? And just feeling like I'm being spread into like so many different, things. But I came back to work and in February, and then it was like, in June, I was part of a mass layoff. Like, okay, welcome back from maternity leave. Now we're going to invite you to leave. Like, that was rude and abrupt after 9.5 years. So that was hard. And then that brought a whole new layer of mom guilt, because it was like, well, I have my family and my new baby all on my health insurance. And, like my husband's in a transition from his company, and like we're literally depending on me. And so that's just like a whole extra layer that's now on me. And luckily it didn't last long. I found another job that I'm working remotely. So it's a lot, I think us moms put a lot on us ourselves.
We sure do. So balancing can be hard, and clearly I don't think we're experts on that, but I'm not really necessarily sure that anyone is a huge expert on it. So what we've decided to do, since we've had requests to talk about this topic, and we're really excited to have those kind of requests, that's what we're living with on a daily Monday through Friday basis, we've decided to share some tips that we've found online and talk through them and add what's actually worked for us. You know, some of the tips have been really helpful and we found them like working into our actual lives. And then others we kind of found our own little workarounds for. So what do you say? Do you want to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. Do you want to jump into the first one since you have experience with it?
Oh, yeah. So number one from What to Expect 13 Tips for Balancing Work and New Baby is have a family calendar. So it's really funny because I tried this. I tried it with Mike. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really great family calendar app where you can add as many people as you want to be a part of the family calendar, and they can go in and add things to it, and you can see updates and get, you know, notifications on your phone and be reminded of things. I mean, you know, a calendar app. And I tried that, and Mike didn't use it. I think
When
so.
he just didn't even look at it.
No, he never even looked at it. I would still be reminding him. I would be reminding him in either our individual text or in our group text. I think my niece went on and looked at it, which was really helpful. But Mike didn't. So my niece was one of, in Annabelle's like first year of me like going back to work, we had my niece help out a lot when Mike's mom couldn't. So she was part of the calendar. Then there's the fact that my grandmother, you know, is in her 80s and she's one of our caregivers as well. And she's not really like into the app thing. And then Mike's mom got her cell phone immediately after Annabelle was born. She got her first and only cell phone right after Annabelle was born because she wanted to see all the pictures we were sending out to the group. So like she is great with apps and she could have like figured it out, but I immediately figured out that this calendar wasn't going to be the best. So what I did do, what worked for us to keep all the caregivers and Mike and I aligned, is I created just like a one-pager monthly schedule of who was going to have Annabelle what day. And then in the notes, I would have like a little notes column. In the notes column, it would say if we had an event going on that would make us late coming home from work, or if we were going out to dinner on like a Thursday or a Friday night, then Mike's mom would know that she was going to have Annabelle later that night. And if we were going on like a weekend getaway, I would add the weekend getaway and say if Annabelle was coming or not. And then if Annabelle wasn't coming, which was very rare, then, you know, Mike's mom would know, hey, Mimi's got Annabelle for the weekend. And of course, we would clear that with her before. But what also helped was group text. So we have group text with Mike's mom, Ashlyn, Ginny, and, you know, a few other people. And then we have the group text for when my grandmother has her. And then Mike automatically reads those text messages. So if anything is changing for the week or for the day, then everybody just reads that text. Mike is a big texter, so it definitely works better for him. And then he knows that everyone else is in the know and not just him and I on what's going on for the week. So he doesn't really ask a whole lot of questions that are already written down for him to read anywhere anymore. So I figured the group text and the printed schedule for everyone is what really works.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think for me, like what I have a problem with when it comes to like schedules and stuff, and this could also just be like one of my toxic traits of just being very disorganized in general. But one of the things that like trips me up usually is I feel like I try planning things, and then I don't know. I just feel like when the morning's a little off, or when things aren't really like going, because it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, you know, I know that Hayden goes to his grandmother's Tuesdays and Thursdays, but then there's some Tuesdays that I wake up and like, let's say like I was up all night with him because he's teething, or like, you know, in the morning he's not really napping right, or it's taking me a little longer to get his shit together and I have to jump on this call. Like sometimes I'm just like, whatever. It's just easier to keep him back here. And so it's like, I kind of shift away from like the schedule, you know, and then I end up making more work for myself.